to one day in God's presence as greater than 1,000 years elsewhere. Is it possible that your existence without a relationship with God is already a waste? Because how many people will live for 1,000 years? If somebody who knows God's presence is saying a day in God's presence is greater than 1,000 years, and you have lived for 80 years, you say you are old. And somebody else who has entered reality is telling you that there is a realm where a moment is superior to a lifetime. That realm is in God's presence, and in prayer you have the ticket of living in that realm. And so when Paul came, he said, don't pray for 3 hours, don't pray in the morning, don't pray in the evening. He said, pray without ceasing. Dwell there. That means if you dwell there, 10 days of your life will be equivalent to what? 10,000 years. 1 year of your life will be equivalent to 360,000 years. So if you are now alive for 30 years, how old are you in real sense? So when they ask you for your date of birth, you will look at them and smile. You will say, you won't believe when I tell you. Do you see why certain men become ancient? When they talk, you know they are digging something from a realm that is deeper than time. Because according to the divine equation, a day in God's presence is greater than 1,000 years, and you have lived in God's presence for 30 years. So how old are you? So when men now weigh you and they are saying, how can this boy be 22 years and he's making impact? You tell them, I am not 22. You are judging from the wrong plane. Where I go to, one day is 1,000 years. That is why I can be 19 and I'll be affecting the globe. Because I go to places where spirits that are older than time dwell. They were there when time was created. They were the ones who fabricated the time. It's called the benefit of prayer. So when you come to sing, the words you articulate together, people hear them and they say, where did you get it from? I came from where words were created. I'm not talking what I read in a book. I came from, there are scrolls somewhere where time doesn't exist. And if you want to become old, come with me. You will age in the natural realm, but in the spirit you become ancient. And so the greatest benefit of prayer is intimacy. When you become intimate with God, you go to where reality begins from. And so your life becomes a wonder to your generation. The reason many are not praying is because they are interacting with other things. Thank God for the books you read about Albert Einstein. They are beautiful. That is called fellowship with Albert Einstein. Thank God for the books you read from the wise men of the world. They are beneficial. But there are certain things that are deeper than men can articulate. When you come to where men interact with God, you see things that sometimes only you can know them. Because there is a specificity about ordination. And so there is something God will whisper. 5 of us will hear, but we'll hear different things. And so when we come out, one may become a billionaire because what he heard empowered him to make wealth. Another will hear something and he'll become a miracle worker. All of us thought we heard the same thing, but because we are coming to where knowledge dwells, when he says one thing, it can mean 1,000 things. And so the true advantage of the believer is his ability through prayer to walk with God. And so when we start engaging the altar of prayer, our goal is not the lingo, our goal is not the time, our goal is the depth. Where have I journeyed to in God? Paul said, I know a man many years ago, whether he was in the flesh or in the spirit, I can't tell. He said, but that man was carried to the third heaven. And when Paul came back, he said he went even to Hades, and the things he heard were unlawful to be uttered among men. So how can a man know something that men are not permitted to know? Who is he? It is called the mysteries of intimacy. And when you enter that depth with God, you become a joy of many generations. The things you say, generations after you, we utter them, they will never be satisfied. The reason is because you have walked with a spirit that is ancient. And so the first benefit of prayer is the fact that prayer opens the doorway to intimacy. A man who doesn't know prayer will not have intimacy with God. And if he doesn't have intimacy with God, the true advantages that are made for his destiny, he will never realize them. He will think he's making progress until they show him his reality from Zion. Somebody may be making 1 million a month, 10 million a month, 20 million a month, and he said, I am doing well. And then they look at you from Zion, they say, you've never come here. How come? How come we've never seen you? If we don't see you and you don't come here, how can you now attach purpose to the money you have? The money you have will now become the basis of your condemnation. Because when you go to where they whisper to the souls of men, they will tell you it is not about the money, it's about the purpose of that money. And you can never have an understanding of that purpose with your brain. It will be shown to you. And so the first true benefit of prayer is that in prayer, men are invited to walk with God. This is why the patriarchs of old exalted prayer, because they knew that outside of God they were nothing. And because they now know God forever and ever, their names will never be forgotten. Do you think you call your child David because you love the name David? No, you don't love David. That name has no meaning to you. It is because of who bore it and who he became in God. And so when you call your son David, you are actually reminiscing on the immortality of a man who has walked with the Spirit. So men become eternally relevant because they walk with the Spirit. This is a man who wandered around with women, but suddenly he saw a spirit and he started walking with that spirit. And forever and ever, generations to come will be honored to name themselves after his order, because he has seen something that is eternal. Abraham was in the hall of the Chaldees until he encountered that spirit. And when he met that spirit, forever and ever, you and I became the children of Abraham. The question is, when you leave, what will you be remembered for? There's no house you build that will last for more than 60 years. The world is moving too fast for your house to be relevant for 60 years. There's no car you buy that will be relevant for more than 10 years. There's no money you have in any account that can exist beyond 2 generations. And so the question is, when you leave, what will you find about you? The only thing that can live with about you forever are the immortal things you pick from the presence of God. Because everybody who goes there carries something. Some goes there, they carry favor. Some go there, they carry wisdom. Some go there, they carry power. And so the things they establish because they went to the immortal realms, they become immortal forever on the face of the earth. And so a man who has not journeyed in intimacy with God, he's already forgotten. He's just using money to sustain his influence. Some people are struggling so hard to be relevant while they are yet alive. Some men have died and they cannot be forgotten because of where they went to and the things they taught. Did you not read about Elijah? Elijah had to be invited to the earth 4 times. God said, no, you have known the glory too much for us to let you go. So you will not die. We will preserve you for another generation. And even after he died, they said the spirit of Elijah came back. And after the spirit of Elijah came back, the 2 witnesses will still come back. A man becomes immortal like God because he has walked too close with God for a world to forget him. Intimacy is what provides for you the benefits of immortality. No matter the money you have, no matter the position you occupy, you will be forgotten unless you touch something that comes from the Spirit that is eternal. And so the first benefit of prayer is intimacy. Men of old were wise. They gave their all to prayer. Daniel was in Babylon. The king said nobody should pray to any other god. He was willing to risk his position and to risk his freedom for prayer, because outside of intimacy he has no freedom in the first place. And in Daniel 6:10, the Bible said 3 times. So if you are praying 3 times when they gave a law that nobody should pray, how many times do you pray when there's no law? And he said 3 times the guy prayed facing Jerusalem. He was not afraid to be arrested. And when they arrested him, he didn't apologize. I'd rather be nothing outside of prayer. I'd rather be nothing with prayer than to be everything outside of prayer. Because with prayer I have God, outside of prayer I have nothing. These men knew these things and they were willing to give their lives for it. And so the first benefit of prayer is a walk with God. And the reason is simple: your walk with God makes you immortal.